Hello, Scott. How are you?
It's been an hour of us chit-chatting before we get to the show of having fun, looking at airline flights to Bangkok and looking at stuff like
Yes.
that. Just for
Ah,
the future potentials of things that we're looking around at stuff. So,
correct.
okay. So,
Oh, Scott. Okay, welcome to Awaken Hidden Truth Show. And Scott, I have an email asking you a question. Can we go to the question
sure.
first?
Yeah.
Okay, from Victor. Okay, he said, after Hugh, we just went to sleep, waking only to hear you saying goodbye and not remembering anything. What happened to the consciousness during the sleep? Thank you.
Old bad habits die hard. That just means you're used to not remembering anything. So, this is something that whoever wrote that has to co create. They have to actually do the effort, put in the effort to utilize the techniques at the back of the Savior's Agenda book or ones that you've shared with them in Thai, okay, if this person's from Thailand, in order to change the subconscious mindset that keeps you from, if you're not brought up on a planet learning from childhood, that you can bring back awareness of where you go when you're out of your body at night when the body's asleep, you're not going to be conditioned to do it, which means you're not going to, the person doing this is not going to have the use of their higher faculty that conditions the brain and the pineal gland and the center of the brain to allow the memory to come here. It's random. Sometimes they might get lucky and have a go to bed really positive and happy, and then they bring back a memory of flying in like in an astral body, or doing something wonderful on another planet, or being in another dimension that isn't like Earth. And, occasionally people will do that, but they don't connect the dots. They don't know what it means and how it compares to their life on Earth. And the important thing is to know how all this works together. What you're doing when you're out of your body at night, and what you bring back here is how you enlighten this life. Enlightenment being aware of the grand multidimensional creation, who you are as a being, not a body, and how to co-create with that one energy that's behind and supporting all life, which is in the first half of the word human as a word. Hue is a sound. It connects a frequency through the pineal gland, the center of the brain, directly to the source, which exists far above the void, known to Buddhists and other groups on Earth. There are many other higher realities above that void. So we want to be able to travel when we're out of our bodies at night to bring back awareness of what you're doing. The motivation has to be proper. The reason for doing it has to be correct. It can't be for greedy or selfish reasons. It can't be for lording something over your fellow beings or wanting power, because the hue, that first sound behind creation, will not work with you if you do that. So we want to be sincere about wanting enlightenment and wanting to know who we are, to recover who we are as a being, not a body, what it looks like, what people call soul on Earth. It has a structure. It's made of an energy that isn't nuclear or atomic in nature. It's like quantum physics. It's the energy behind matter that is not matter. It's not protons and electrons and neutrons. Those are all matter things, slower vibrations of this energy, slowed down to create worlds and galaxies and all of that. The void of space that looks black in time-lapse photography, like the Hubble telescope or radio telescopes that people see online, you can look up and see what galaxies look like, other planets, and how beautiful they are. The light that they use to detect that is not physical human light. Physical human eyes can't see into those frequencies. But the Atma that runs a body on Earth, what people call soul, can see into those frequencies. So the void of space between planets and galaxies and stars and dimensions, which looks black, isn't at all. It's quite a brilliant golden white light. The person out of their body looking at it can see this. But the physical human eyes aren't designed to see that high frequency. So that's important for a person to know. If they're going to remember more, they're going to have to work at exercising, turning on their higher faculties that gives them the ability to bring awareness to this brain, this body on this earth that grew up with none of that kind of training whatsoever. It's perfectly normal for people to go on one of these journeys that we record and you put on your YouTube channel, and then, just be so uplifted that their body just goes to sleep. They haven't yet learned how to stay conscious while the body goes to sleep. They identify with the body going to sleep and go unconscious with it, which is why they pass out. It's conditioning from birth. And that old conditioning, a person needs to learn how to take their attention away from that. Stop adding their imagination into identifying with the physical body as who they are, because they are not a physical body. They've never been one. They never will be. We run physical bodies temporarily, called a lifetime, but we are not physical bodies. A physical body and brain can't do a thing. It can't even lift a finger or speak unless the Atma, the soul, the actual being running it, tells it to do something. If a person imagines going to the store to get some ice cream, they first imagine it before they can get the body to get up, get in the car and go there and get it. They see into the universe what it is they want, and then they create getting there. The same principle applies to out-of-body travel. The same principle applies to being aware and enlightened and awake, running a body on earth, but knowing you're not that body. Not just belief or faith, that won't do it. That's only a beginning phase of enlightenment. Faith and belief have to leap into direct experience, into knowing with certainty what it is you believe in. It can't just be faith, because that doesn't change the planet at all. It never has. The planet's in terrible backward shape. Even though all the religions are here and metaphysical groups and spiritual groups and gurus, the planet still hasn't changed much in thousands of years as far as enlightenment is concerned. And people are still greedy. People still like power. People still lie to each other. It hasn't changed anything. So faith is a good place to start, but a terrible place to end up. What I mean by that is faith, good faith, right faith, passionate, true, should lead, or it should guide a person to cross paths with beings that can really help it. Remember who it is that isn't physical and what it used to know before it was born here. That's important. So it's perfectly normal for a while to just try to, remember stuff, go on one of these journeys and go to sleep or wake up at the end. What they need to know, this person and others who might ask this question, is they are actually having the experience. Conditioning this thing you grew up with to accept into this consciousness these higher experiences and to get them downloaded into the brain and body that doesn't have them in it at all is what this is about. People are trying to have higher experience as if this brain and body can have the higher experience. It can't. The being running the body, which is spherical in shape, can go out of the body, have the experience, and download it to this brain and body. That's how it works, not the other way around. That should answer the question.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a habit. It needs to be like a bad habit. It needs to be, I don't want to say broken, but it needs the person's awareness and attention needs to be awake enough to not feed its imagination into not knowing, into identifying with the body when it goes to sleep. That takes some practice. So that, like when they listen to my voice and I guide one of these journeys, the more you do it, as you know, Perry, the more you can stay alert to what I'm saying, even while your body's sitting there with its eyes closed, asleep. Because it's you that's actually listening, not that body and brain. You can't take that body and brain even to the next dimension. It can't even go to the astral plane. It can get on a ship and go to parallel dimensions within the physical universe. There's 144 of them. But it can't cross over into the next dimension where emotion moves matter, feeling. That comes from the next dimension up. People are living lives they're running as a single being on those other planes, like the physical, astral, causal, mental, and etheric, below the void. Those are all below the void. Across that mysterious void on the other side takes a certain amount of luminous awareness to get across it and see what's on the other side. And that just takes experience. Every single being can do it. But mostly for people on Earth, they don't believe this. They doubt themselves. They doubt who they are. They don't know that they aren't a physical body or brain. They never have been. And they believe they are. And they're afraid of death. They're afraid of losing the body because they identify with it. And it isn't them. They can't die. Bodies can come and go. They're a dime a dozen. But the being, if the body suddenly died, the being would be looking at, oh, there's my body. It died. Well, wait a minute. I'm talking to myself. I'm still here, still awake. And then they have to deal with either finding another body or being enlightened enough not to get another one, not needing one. So it's like that. And I think that's pretty clear, right?
Yes.
And
Scott,
this person asked the question, but it applies to everyone.
correct.
Universally applies to everyone. Most people on Earth, out of 7 billion people, aren't aware what they are. That isn't one of these. They really don't know anymore. They've been made long ago to forget that. Before they were even incarnated here, they were made to forget it. But that is all recoverable. It can be awakened. It can be recovered. The right situation, the right awareness, a little bit of effort on the part of people doing it, they can recover that. Yeah.
And like you mentioned, to go on journeys, people can go on journey more than one time, because the second time, third time, they will learn more and more, deeper and deeper into details. Scott, that's my experience, so I can share.
Well, it's mine too. I mean, if I go on these journeys a second time and listen to my own voice recording it, it's like I'm another being listening to the guide. I go on it just like everyone else, because it involves the creative imagination. Is not fantasy. And creative imagination is not made up here. In the brain, there's billions, these little brain cells with all the neurons and nerves. There's nothing in the brain whatsoever in a physical body that has a motion picture camera and a movie projector screen on which you can see stuff called imagination. There's nothing in those brain cells that can show you that. People have got this all wrong on Earth. They're trying to figure out how the brain can see things. It doesn't. It's not designed to do that. It's the being, which isn't physical. It's not DNA. It is energy, but it's an eternal kind of, it's a drop of pure energy from the source itself, prime creator, supreme being, whatever you want to call it, ocean of sound and light, far above the void. And that is what we are. It's gone into the lower worlds and started running bodies to gain experience in order to create, what are you doing out there? Come on in. Come on in. He got tired of waiting for us to go on a journey and he left. Now he's coming back and he's saying, you guys ready or what? Am I going to wait all night or what's the deal here? There you go. I know. You probably want some more chows or two, I bet you. So, people are born on Earth, growing up with parents and surroundings and siblings and their peers in society and in governments and in school systems that don't teach any of this at all. Nothing. Zip, nothing. So they grow up as unconscious as their fellows all around them are. And they can't be blamed because they don't remember who they were before they were made to incarnate in a body here with no memory. Just dumb as a brick. And they grow up and they get an adult body and they have a certain personality and they've got in their experience that's not really even recorded in the brain. It's recorded in the Atma that runs a brain and body. And they have that experience for this lifetime, but no access to all the other lives they've lived in all the different dimensions during billions of years, because the Atma did not come into existence in time and space. What we really are wasn't created in the lower dimensions of time and space. In the lower dimensions, all these other planes up to the etheric, before the void, work on the principle of one of the simplest laws of physics. Every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. That includes what you imagine and how you feel, because those are microvolts that are measurable on an oscilloscope that go out from the body into the universe. Thoughts, feelings, they go out from us. On Earth, there's an ionosphere. It's a layer of energy around the planet that reflects certain frequencies like radio waves. So that's why you can send a radio wave across the curve of the planet, because it bounces off the ionosphere and goes around the curve. That's powerful enough. Thoughts and feelings have been stuck in this planet since it began. What people have done to each other, wars, tyrants, kings, it's all still in the atmosphere, bouncing off the ionosphere. And people in their unawareness will pick up on different dastardly things that were done to people. Sometimes people will act these out as if it was their own without realizing it, because they don't know how to utilize the creative imagination properly. To my awareness, there's only one way to properly use the creative imagination, and that is to intentionally create or imagine new ways of doing things that will be for the uplifting benefit of all life. And to do it properly, we have to be aware of what life is beyond Earth, out in the greater universe where God is, out in the billions of galaxies and all the other dimensions where most of it is, because only a tiny fraction of what people call the Supreme Being or Divine Spirit is operating on this planet. Tiny drop. The rest of it's out there. Atmas have the ability to travel when the body's asleep at night and go explore all that. They've been doing it for billions of years and don't remember anymore because of things they've gotten into, things that have happened in other lives that tyrants got them. Some of them used them as political prisoners and shut down their memory and forced them into a body on Earth and said, you shall reincarnate with no memory. That way you're a permanent political prisoner. There's a whole history of the galaxy and Earth history that people on Earth have no idea existed at all, that they were part of. And that needs to be recovered in people if they're going to make any significant progress. Doesn't matter what faith they believe in or a savior or any someone who's going to intervene on their behalf to wave a magic wand and set them free. Because it's our responsibilities, as we're made of the same energy, like a drop out of a mighty ocean of the same energy, which is not nuclear or atomic in nature. More like quantum physics. It's energy behind matter that exists all throughout creation. It's one power, one energy. And we are comprised of the very same energy as the Supreme Source itself, what people call the Supreme Being. Or I call Prime Creator, people from other worlds call Prime Creator, because it's the prime source where we all create from, together, collectively. And it's in a very high reality, far above the void. Part of us never left there. Aspects of us as an Atma running bodies, it's kind of like an illusion, like Maya, because when a being, through a long enough exposure to the lower worlds of time and space, forgets where it came from, it begins to identify with the forms it's running, like bodies, until it no longer remembers anything. Earth is a typical example of a world where people don't remember who they are as beings, not bodies, or what they once knew with confidence. So one of the things we want to do is rehabilitate in people. They have to co-creatively be involved in the process. It can't just be done to them, because they won't learn anything. People have what's called a subconscious mind on Earth. And in it are programs that are terror or fear-based that are implanted there, meaning people aren't aware of them, that influence their conscious decision-making while they're on Earth, to keep them from really knowing direct experience for themselves, to believe in something on faith alone, or to believe what a government tells you, or the head of a religion, or synagogue, or mosque, or whatever temple, Buddhism, or anything else. Doesn't mean the people in those things are insincere or aren't doing good work. It just means that they don't know how to have direct experience themselves, or they would be teaching it, wouldn't they? If they knew how to do it, they would be sharing it with others. So an individual has to have enough awakening to have the desire and the dedication and the discipline to exercise their higher faculties, the higher faculties of the Atma, the real them, not the body, to turn on, to start functioning again. Because it is the spherical aspect that we are that actually sees into the multiverse through what we call imagination. If a person is sitting in a classroom and they're bored with the teacher and they're looking out the window and they can see the parking lot with their eyes open and they're doing what we call daydreaming, dreaming of being somewhere else and seeing it, even with their eyes open, it isn't the brain or the eyes that are seeing it, because that's seeing the light coming to them from the parking lot. That's what they're seeing. And they're hearing the teacher in the back of their mind. But the thing that's seeing the waterfall or the ski trip or being on the beach or being anywhere else is the Atma looking into the multidimensional nature of the universe, because it isn't made of the lower planes, and it can do this free of the laws of physics, free of them. And it can see into other realities and see this imagination. It sees a beach with beautiful cosmic sky above it in daytime. It's on another planet. The Atma's actually there seeing it. But people on Earth don't know this. They have not a clue. They think it's fantasy. They're told it's made up in their brain. This is not correct at all. The brain can't make that stuff up. Somebody writes a series of books like I've done, or Star Wars. The guy didn't make it up in his brain. He might believe that, but he didn't. It was the person going into a trance kind of state where the body's kind of half conscious asleep, and the being seeing and writing, feverishly writing what he's seeing about 5 million years ago in another galaxy, another life where he was there, and he's writing about this stuff, driven to do it. And then it becomes a feature films that are very successful because people want to remember, but they only get to look at it in a film and say, well, that's just a fantasy. People that write books aren't so brilliant that they make it up in their brains like they might think they do. They're actually looking into the multiverse and getting it from somewhere else, bringing it here without realizing they're doing it. I work that way. The Saber's Agenda was written that way. The entire Parallel Time Trilogy was written that way. The music I produce and perform and did in my earlier life was written that way, created that way. Only I know how it was being created. I'm conscious of it. I know I'm going out there and getting it from the universe. It's not being made up in my brain. I'm not that bright as a brain and a body in one lifetime to go out and create such things. You have to be able to look at the grand multidimensional creation and what's in it and go play among the stars while you're on Earth in order to do something brilliant, in order to do something that a brain in one lifetime could not possibly have created. I'm trying to make this clear to people in these radio shows with you, Perry, to help them begin to understand they are not a brain and a body. They never will be, no matter how hard they try. No matter what they do, they will never be a brain and a body that can die. They can lose 1 million lifetimes, 1 billion lifetimes, and they're still going to be alive, wondering how the hell they just lost that lifetime or where they're going next. But you cannot kill something that is not material in nature, that is not made of electrons and protons and neutrons and atomic, that is energy that actually gives and supports life to those things. That's an energy that's behind it. And that's one complete power in the entire grand multidimensional creation. One energy, one power. We're made of the same thing, individualized, and we can create with our imagination. What we imagine goes into this one power, what people call divine spirit. And it is a co-creator with us. Unbiased, unprejudiced, it will simply create, bring into manifestation whatever we imagine in it, good or bad or both. This is really how this one power works. It's a teacher. We're meant to learn how to use the imagination for the good of all life, including our own. But not just life on Earth, life in the entire multiverse, which means to do it right, we need to understand what this one power, this prime source, this supreme being, that collectively we make it up because we're made of the same thing as it. We're meant to know what we are. It's not physical. And be able to consciously and in a trustworthy manner create new ways of doing things with this source. That's why we incarnate in all these bodies. The purpose for it is so one day we will be a co-creator with that source and many wondrous beings far beyond anything living in a physical body on Earth. It is our destiny as beings to do this. No one can escape this destiny, because evil is an experiment, which is a failed experiment. The good and bad fighting each other was never meant to be permanent. What's taking place out in the universe now, outside of Earth, that people on Earth don't know about, most people, is changing the way things are run out there, so things can actually permanently change in unexpected new ways here. The energy of the universe is moving in one direction now. Earth is right in its path. So ultimately, it doesn't matter what people on Earth do or don't do, because they think they have free will, but in reality, they don't. Because if they can't remember what they are fully consciously, that isn't a physical body, that's spherical in nature, that has layers of color to it, that has shape and has different faculties in each layer. If they don't know what that is, and they don't know they're not a body, and they don't remember who they are that isn't a body, and they don't remember how they got here or where they came from before this life, how can you call that free will? You can't practically, can you? Where's the free will in that? So we want to wake up first free will. That means the ability for a person to know what it is again and what they're capable of doing and knowing. People on Earth are taught that you cannot know the Supreme Being. You can't experience it directly. It's too far beyond you. It's so brilliant, you'll never know it. Tyrants on Earth teach that to keep people ignorant and controlled. The tyrants themselves are motivated by subconscious-driven fear to dominate others before they dominate them. That's their thinking. And it just creates the same perpetual trap for all of us, anyone living on Earth. So eventually, and this is the destiny, the change destiny for this planet, they're all going to have to change with this flow of energy that's moving through this planet now and moving out into the universe. And there's no power that can prevent it. It is the new will of the source itself moving through this planet and this universe that's involved here. And that source, what's called the Supreme Being, has had a great change in consciousness recently. In order to solve the biggest problem, we're all here to help it solve. You know what that is? How do we make the lower planes of time and space, physical, astral, causal, mental, etheric, below the void, mirrors of the upper worlds that exist above it, where there's pure positive energy, no time, no space, no planets, no moons, no stars, but things that are brought into manifestation to float in very powerful, beautiful energy. Islands of training, you might call them, where beings can work together collectively to change the way things are run in the lower dimensions, because ultimately we came here to figure out a way how to solve this great problem one day. It's never been done in hundreds of billions of years, and now it's starting to be done for the first time. That means evil as a failed experiment has to be retired, like the dinosaur, and replaced with something that works, that motivates all beings to only create with their higher faculties, the creative imagination, that which will be of an uplifting benefit to all life. Not just life on Earth, that won't do it. Life respectfully of all life that's out there. The hundreds of trillions of planets just in this parallel dimension alone. 144 levels of that. Then the astral plane, the same thing, causal, mental, etheric, the void, and then the worlds above are much bigger than anything down here. Each single being is still living at that source. The multidimensional nature of the atom is that it can duplicate itself and run bodies in different planes. I don't think I've ever put it quite that succinctly before. The atma that we are is at the source itself, is still there because it's living in an energy that is not time and space, can duplicate itself or be connected to another sphere that looks just like it, that can run the bodies in the different planes. In order for them to gain experience, tactile, sound, smell, taste, motion, texture, from worlds and planets unimaginably numerous, so that one day they could bring back that experience, share it, and give insights as to how to fix this big problem. The bigger problems of eternity is why we exist as human beings. Human. We exist as beings to one day co-create with that source new ways of solving problems, bigger problems. The biggest one there is to solve, which is being solved now but was never solved before, is how do we make the lower dimensions of time and space mirrors of the upper worlds, in which case they would be paradises, wouldn't they? And we as beings would really be consciously responsible for keeping the environments clean, clear of pollutants and toxins and all that stuff. There'd be no disease, no microscopic billion-year-old life that's competing with human beings by attacking our cells. That should have been done away with a long time ago on this planet, like they've been done on other planets. They don't have disease because they don't allow microscopic life to live to compete with higher life forms anymore. Those were the precursors to the development of human beings. Once they're done, they should be done away with. And that's never been done on this planet. Earth has been a dumping ground for beings from all over the universe. And most people brought here are brought here against their free will. And they're compelled to live in a body with no former memory intact. This is what we need to reverse. So my work is all about that. The beings I work with in the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds, centered near the galactic core of the Milky Way galaxy, vast organization, hundreds and hundreds of millions of world systems that work together in harmony. They outlawed money a long time ago because it's the tool of tyrants. Earth people are conditioned to it, so if you put a piece of paper or a debit card for a taco, you can't buy one normally. But that's what people think is normal. It isn't. It's not the way most worlds work outside of Earth. I would say that the classified community on planet Earth exists only now, still, because people running it are afraid to tell the truth. They're afraid for their own lives and their families, what the mass of people will do to them when they find out what they've done in the name of people for governments who elect them. And the way this energy is working, it isn't targeting them in some revengeful or vindictive manner at all. And some of those people in those classified communities, quite a number, are becoming aware that they're not being targeted. It's important that they also lose and stop adding fear to fear, that they stop being afraid of everything. And they know that this is about changing an entire planet, not of all the people on the planet, all the nature on the planet, all the animal life, everything. Because Earth is not by any means a normal planet. It's not a normal human planet at all. It's quite an abnormal one. How can people call Earth a normal planet if the people on it can't remember what they are, who they are, or why they exist? And they look in the mirror and think they're a body. And they're afraid of death and everything else. That's not normal. So this work is about helping people co-create through their own effort, once they're shown how to work with this one source energy way far high in the upper worlds that they are still part of, and to get their lives here and in other realities to change permanently for the better. That is what the new ray, this new ray energy in the one omnipresent first sound behind creation, the one power that is now in creation, was created up there and brought here, is all about. I can't force masses of people on Earth who can't even remember how to lift a finger in their own self-defense as an Atma, not a body or a brain. You know, I can't force the awareness of this on anyone. The best way to work with people I know of is that when they're out of their bodies every night, anyway, when their body's asleep, without knowing what they're doing, that's the time to approach them with kind beings that can help them in any language they speak or understand, to recover more of these higher faculties of the Atma, begin to remember what they are that isn't physical, and then download that through the pineal gland, the center of the brain, to the brain and the body they have on Earth in the morning when they wake that body up. Because the fact is, when a person puts the body to sleep at night, and that's everyone on Earth, they actually know how to make the pineal gland secrete serotonin, make melatonin, and put the body on automatic while they leave. That's what sleep is. That's why no one's home when someone's snoring and you could yell at them. There's no one home until you shock them back in that body. There's nobody there. The body is running on automatic. That means the blood's working, the heart's pumping, lungs are breathing, but the brain is basically off, shut down. Eyes are closed. You're not seeing any light from outside. So anything that you're aware of when the body's asleep is taking place beyond the physical body somewhere. Discovering this and rediscovering this and bringing it back to this form on Earth that never learned it growing up is what this work is all about. And their free will, their true free will, co-creatively, must be involved in the process. There's no savior or anybody that can come and wave a magic wand and give it to them for free while they sit on their butt and do nothing, because they would lose it in a day. Yeah, healing someone could be making them say what we call God realized in an instant. What's in their subconscious they don't even know is there would pervert that energy, that awareness in a day, and they'd lose it all over again because of subconscious drives that make them make incorrect decisions every day. So we get people aware of what these subconscious influences are, how to shut them down by refusing to give them imagination and energy. They just turn off. A person gains mastery over them. The primary and secondary implants are these terrorizing programs that are in the subconscious that people don't even know where the subconscious is. It's not in the brain or body on Earth, by the way. To get those things gone permanently, the being has to have a certain degree of mastery over them so that they don't put their attention there, because otherwise, if they were given the freedom from such things, they would go into the universe and create havoc from not really having the discipline or the understanding awoken about what to do and not to do with negative emotions and negative imagination. It should be put away permanently, period, completely. Because as long as people are putting energy into positive things and negative things, fear and wanting good things for their family at the same time, it's going into this one divine spirit they pray to, which only creates what we imagine in it. It's its job to create for us what we imagine it, good or bad in the lower dimensions of time and space. That's the law. Every action creates an equal but opposite reaction. Wherever you put out, comes back. We want to get above being subject to that law. It's very limiting. Creates karma and reincarnation. To end that, we have to stop giving it imagination and attention through conscious awareness of why we need to stop doing that. Then we stop doing it. So this work begins this way with people on this or any planet or any dimension. And they begin to remember that they once used to know so much more than they know on Earth right now. And then they begin to work towards regaining that. The beings I work with not from Earth are quite adept at working with people and teaching people the higher realities and how people live in other worlds. But people on Earth have to be ready to do that, humble enough to do it, not subject underneath them like they're inferior, but walk with their heads held high along with these master teachers, side by side, because they respect us more than we respect them, because they see the potential we are as beings running bodies who don't know it anymore. Even the master teachers that people have heard about on Earth had their hands tied through most of this history of this planet because the laws of the lower worlds were fixed and finished and no one could change them. The only way you can change laws that are fixed and finished in the lower dimensions, like good and bad, always fighting it out, is to change it first in the worlds above the void, the upper worlds, because there is no negative nature there, no positive and negative, no time and no space. It's just pure energy. There are forms and worlds there that are mocked up and maintained by beings so that we have places to meet, create, test things, and work on stuff. That's how the upper worlds work. But nothing of any negative nature can be brought there ever. It does not cross the void, which means it stays with the sleeping body back on Earth, and then the being can go and play, create new ways of doing things, and eventually that's going to affect their physical life on Earth in good ways, because it's going to change it. It's going to enlighten the form on Earth that never had any of these experiences. The brain and body in one life on Earth never had any experiences of living other lives on other planets or being in the higher worlds or where they came from. It's not in the brain and body in this lifetime. So to gain that awareness, it has to be brought here from somewhere else. Okay. So any particular place you think we should go today in a little journey for the radio show listeners?
Yes. Can we go to the light and sound?
That's just outside of Earth. You're going to find light and sound everywhere.
No, upper world, in the upper world.
Oh, upper worlds. Okay. Okay. I'm going to mute your mic unless you have another
Okay.
question. The only reason I do that for Perry at this point is so that the quality of the recording sound and my voice isn't interrupted by the different internets across the world. Satellite, it becomes more stronger and more stable. So once we start on the journey, I'll do that because there's a certain process involved in my assisting all of you to put the body to sleep the same way you do every night anyway. It's not something I can teach you to do. You already know how to do it. But making you aware, getting you to be aware of what it is you're doing when you're doing it, that's another matter. And since you're not taught this growing up, someone, when you cross paths with someone in this life, it needs to be someone and the beings they work with who can assist you to remember what you don't remember. Very simple. Any psychiatrists, psychologists that are trained in school to believe that the brain is the source of imagination or the subconscious mind has to do with the brain are incorrect, which is why they won't solve curing mental illness through drugs. Someone has a B deficiency and they give them a shot. Some people can snap out of schizophrenia because it's a chemical reaction. But for many other conditions, the subconscious isn't located on Earth or around the brain of one body. It's located in what's called the etheric plane, 5 dimensions up from the physical, below the void. And that's considered to be the subconscious area. But to a being living there, it's not subconscious at all. So I know this is difficult for some people to understand at first. But remember, this is something they once knew. So recovering confident awareness of this is what my work is about. That's it. I begin to send out the first half of the word human, as in hue or hue, this sound, round whole tone. It vibrates considerably above om because that's in the mental plane. We want to get above the void into the upper worlds, the upper realities. The hue connects the individual, the being running a body, directly to the current that's out in the void of space, which is one energy, not physical matter. It isn't subject to the laws of physics. It is the energy behind the laws of physics, and then it connects directly to the source itself because we're still there. If you can understand how this works, it's telepathic. Telepathy in its pure form cannot be intruded upon, controlled, misdirected, or abused by any being living in or out of bodies or any misuse of technology whatsoever, because it doesn't come under the laws of physics. Atmas communicate telepathically. More advanced races running bodies in the spacefaring races out there are telepathic, human, many of them human, so that they can speak with vocal cords or you can hear them mind to mind. The pure form of communication is telepathic. That is not psychic. Psychic energies are dealing with energies from the 4 or 5 lower dimensions: etheric, mental, causal, astral, and physical. There's a dual current running through them, positive and negative, split in half in the consciousness of most beings. So they're busy creating out both channels at the same time and trapping themselves with it because their consciousness is split in half. Very simple. I send out these tones in a series of higher tone frequencies in order to stimulate certain things, which just assists you, who knows how to put your body to sleep every night, to remain conscious as an Atma while the body goes to sleep. So you'll still hear my voice guiding the session. You'll still see what it is we're seeing, but your physical eyes are closed. which means the brain's not on. It's not seeing anything. There's no light coming in the eyes. So when you imagine something with your eyes closed, it's really there somewhere. Subconscious spheres distort the perceptions of what we see out there, so it can be jumbled. You can have a dream that makes no sense. Everything can be jumbled up, or it can be very crystal clear, depending upon what consciousness you take into the dream state when you go to bed at night. If it's one of fear and dread, then you're going to have those kinds of experiences. If it's one of childlike wonder about truth and the nature of being and all they once knew, and that should be done in a way that does not involve any fear of the present or the future. Very key, very important. So I'll begin those tones now, and then we'll go on a journey. The sound of eternity is in the first half of the word human. Human, woman. Animals do it in their own ways. Birds, all creatures. Dolphins and whales tune into this. They inherently know it. Human beings have been made to forget it. In a history before this life, they don't remember. Or in a history in the distant past of this earth that is not even taught anywhere on this planet. Going back 65 million years to the time when the dinosaurs were made extinct. That is how long beings from other worlds, humans of different races, have been brought to this planet in one scenario or one cycle of living life on this earth or another over a very long period of time. There was a great war 500,000 years ago in our galaxy, and the perverted misuse of science by tyrants trapped certain beings when they could catch them. It destroyed their body, create an electromagnetic field of subconscious, distorting, misdirecting terror to control them, stick them in a body on Earth, and tell them to forget everything and keep reincarnating here with no memory. This is one of the things that was done to many of the people who live on Earth today. This kind of thing is not being done anymore. It's been stopped out in space among the stars. The people, however, on the Earth are still left with the negative effect of this. And it's a deep, nasty, terrible thing. Here's the kicker. Each individual has the ability to recover who they once were as an Atma, as a spherical being, not a body. They just don't believe it, and they're afraid to remember it because they've been told they will be killed and murdered or eaten alive again if they ever try to remember who they are. This is just a negative program. It's just like putting a tape in your computer and pushing the button to play. Things outside that take place in our world stimulate some of these subconscious recordings. People have terrorizing effects. The recordings there don't show sound and light. You don't hear or see the terror, you feel it. And it's the feeling that misdirects the decision making of people on Earth every day and every moment of every day. That is not normal. The number of beings that are free of a subconscious mind altogether, that live and travel the stars out in the Milky Way galaxy alone, number in nearly 500 million in just one half of the Milky Way galaxy. Those are planets, not individuals. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of beings, trillions, live on those worlds. And they're not overpopulated. And they exist in what are called parallel dimensions at different molecular time rates, stacked like playing cards that exist before you even get to what people call the astral plane. More advanced races move between those dimensions and to have trade with worlds and spacefaring races in all 144 in craft that are capable of doing this, made of physical matter, that can change their electromagnetic field, their molecular time rate up or down. This is normal for them. It could be normal for the people of Earth. It's been offered to people on this planet several times, to its leaders, and they, in fear, turned it down. Tyrants will force their way on leaders or manipulate them against their will. Kind beings, the majority of them that live outside of Earth, the vast majority, don't force their will on others. In the sound, a whole round tone is contained all the wisdom of eternity. It's accessible by each being when they plug into it. Because what you're really doing then is plugging you, made of the same energy, into one all-powerful, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent force. It of itself is not a tyrant. The way it works in supporting the lower dimensions of time and space is that it brings into creation with that one power what you or I imagine or feel in it. That can trap you or destroy your life or set you free. So the real key is to work with beings when they're out of their bodies at night to help them recover who they are, so they can download through the pineal gland, the center of their brain, their physical body, higher awareness, greater awareness of the multiverse, the dimensions and planets and beings that live outside of Earth, who wish us well. For the longest time, they did not intervene in this world because they had an understanding of non-intervention that no longer made any sense when they found out that the majority of people on Earth do not remember who they are and are not operating with free will. So how can you leave them to their own devices, misdirected to destroy themselves? If you're responsible beings from outside of Earth, they recently went through a consciousness expansion, as the Say race did, and my friend Ambassador Terrellian did. So they're getting involved in changing things now for the better for the first time. So here we are. The body's going into the trance state we call sleep. Comfortable, protected, safe. The hue, when you work with it, forms a certain protection, provides a certain protection that each individual must experience for themselves to know the validity of it. Because it works beyond the psychic, beyond the lower dimensions, into the pure area of telepathic communication between beings and the source itself. Call it a fail-safe, something that's always been hidden in place behind the scenes. As a spherical being, imagine yourself up above your body by the ceiling, looking down on that body with its eyes closed. Call it daydreaming. You do it all the time. We all do. Sitting looking out the window, you've got a little time, you're in a chair, you're wondering about what it'd be like to be by Mount Shasta or on another planet or at the beach. And you see it in your imagination, even with your eyes open. Remember, the being seeing that somewhere else is not the brain or body or the eyes of the physical form. So here you are hovering above your body, looking kindly down on it. And you have the purpose now of going on a journey beyond Earth, outside the negative atmosphere of planet Earth and its people, out in the void of space above the planet, so that because in the void of space, this thing they call dark matter, which most advanced quantum physicists know is not dark. It's just that you can't see how bright it is. Can't see how bright it is with the physical eyes. But we can with the perceptions of our true self, the spherical energy atma. Be in space above the planet Earth. As this spherical form, we do not need to breathe oxygen. We don't feel heat or cold or the radiation from the sun. And yes, you can float in space, just like the space shuttle. You're going to find that if you look around from here, you can see the beautiful Earth below us in the distance. You can see the polar ice caps, the barren moon that does not turn on its axis, pockmarked with meteor craters, the yellow sun way off in the distance, and billions of stars that make up our galaxy, clearly shining in every direction above, below, and to the side of you, beyond our solar system. And the area that appears black in time-lapse photography, photographs of space, to you here appears like a white golden light filling the void of space everywhere, packed full of this non-nuclear, non-atomic energy. A living, breathing force, but it doesn't breathe oxygen. It does breathe because it pulses from the source through the lower dimensions and back again. It's a continuous stream. We are literally floating as atmas in this surrounding ocean of white golden light. And you look around, you see that there are a number of us in a circle, floating there as spherical beings that have a white core of energy, looks just like the golden white light around us. And then another layer, a certain thickness of teardrop-shaped hierophacales that is yellow. Then an orange layer, wider circles, concentric circles. Then red, then green, then blue, lavender and violet. Surrounded by a golden white light that is a protective field around the core of the individual nature of our being. And then you see a physical form out in front of you that looks just like you. 36, young adult. No matter what your age, whether you're old or young, It is an energy projection that looks just like you, perfectly, flawlessly healthy, trim, vibrant, youthful, energetic, and it's standing there in front of the spherical you running it as a projection so that each of us on this journey can see each other, kind of get a recognition of who we are. It's a form you choose to show others that is flawless, which you can do as an Atma when you're outside the negative atmosphere of planet Earth. It's compacted with negative and positive things and has, since its beginning, stored everything ever done within the inside of the atmosphere itself, always bouncing off the ionosphere. Problem with global warming is that the ionosphere and other energies like the ozone layer and the ionosphere itself, when it builds up CO2 up there, it keeps infrared and ultraviolet from traveling back into space, so the planet heats up. It makes it more difficult for beings to become aware. But out here in space, where we are now, that is not a problem. The body is asleep, protected back on Earth. And you, the Atma that's running it, have a link to it. It's not a silver or golden cord that can be severed by a negative being or technology, because it is not nuclear or atomic in nature. It's a telepathic link to the pineal gland, the center of the brain of that body, to run it while you're on a journey. It's just this simple. You can see a friend of mine, his name is Ambassador Trellian of the Say-Rays, very tall, most ancient human race. And he's in the center of this circle of beings, all of us. He's 18 feet tall. He's showing you a body form he once had that is 18 feet tall. He has long, slightly curvy, wavy blonde hair, pointed ears like an elf. Kind of a Greek gown on, looks like a Greek god, and he's putting two thumbs up, and he's channeling an energy through his thumbs. It's just simply an uplifting, consistent support energy until we get a lot of what they know established in a direct, knowing, confident way for ourselves. That's what he's doing. To the right of him is standing a master teacher named Opelum. He is a human from a planet called Oceana. It's on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. It is in the third higher parallel dimension within the physical universe, out of 144. And the planet is mostly water covered, with a few small islands around the equator and dome cities with golden pyramids with cork caps inside them. They have a lot of cities built on the bottom of the ocean floor and transport tubes connecting them. Opelum's raising his hand so you can see little webs between his fingers. Lifts his neck. He's got three little slits. These are gills. They are humans that actually can breathe underwater or on land. We still have the same basic genetic ancient history from the Say-Rays incorporated into the DNA of these bodies. We could actually mate with Oceanans. Not that they'd want to, someone from Earth, but they have 4-stranded DNA. We have 2. We were meant to run 4-stranded DNA bodies, not 2. That goes back in the twisted nature of galactic history. And he's a master teacher, someone you can ask for assistance or help to understand higher science. They have the most profound crystal-based science in the galaxy. And to the left of Trillian, we're all sitting in space, hovering around them, is another master teacher named Ramu. Swarthy skin, brown, black short-cropped beard and curly hair, maroon robe, staff in his hand made of quartz, 6 feet tall with an Egyptian ankh for eternal life. On top of it, it's a device. He always shows this as a marker of who he is. carries this at all times. These are beings who are aware of the new ray in the hue that I spoke of at the beginning of this journey. It is a new type of energy of creation among all the creative rays that only works one way and it supersedes all the others, in that it's designed to retire the failed experiment of good and bad and replace it with this energy which motivates all atmas to only create that which will benefit all life in the entire grand multidimensional creation, both below the void and in the higher worlds above it. It works with the one energy that's supporting all of it, which is going through some change for the first time. This change has to do with unfixing and unfinishing the fixed states of the lower dimensions that could not change, and replacing it with an energy that motivates people to create good, wonderful things for the good of all life, not just their own planet, not just themselves, all of it. To do this effectively, we need to be aware of what that vast nature of life is out in the multiverse that we call God. Because the great, massive, the great, massive, total nature of it exists quite beyond planet Earth. We're just one little planet in that mix. We are capable as Atmas to understand and comprehend such things. Human brain and body, no. But you can train that human brain and body to accept more enlightening awareness in the lifetime you have on Earth, so that there is a direct conscious channel open between what you really are and that brain and body you're running. You look at the Earth. I'm standing now out in front of Trilogy near the center of this circle, and I point to the Earth. And my body looks to be about 36, perfectly healthy, just like yours. And you can see the vibration of this white golden light around us brighten. And then you see the Earth has changed. It now has no polar ice caps. And the moon is alive with life, full oxygen atmosphere, rain clouds and little rivers and lakes and little small oceans, no polar ice caps. And it's turning on its axis. It had gravity. And it's moving around the planet Earth. This is the Earth and moon as it exists in the third higher parallel dimension above the Earth you're familiar with. It exists right now. It has been there for ancient ages, and it will be utilized as a prototype for what Earth and the moon will become. The moon you're familiar with is not destined to stay barren and lifeless without an oxygen atmosphere. That's part of what's coming in the days ahead. Down on that continent, you see a huge continent extending from the left to the right hemisphere, fills the entire half of the world, goes up towards the North Pole about a third below it, and curves down towards the western coast. Then it goes down below about a third away above the South Pole and then continues to the eastern side. And down at the bottom, there's a curved half-moon base-shaped bay, about a third of the way up from the southern pole. Remember, no ice caps. And there is a green, glowing, luminous beach, curved, that you can see from space down there. And then you see Tyrellian wave his hand, and you look down and you see your bare feet of this 36-year-old perfect form wiggling its toes in this glowing green emerald. It's made of actual small polished emeralds, this sand. Size of a grain of sand, all clear, transparent emeralds glowing with a charge about a foot above the sand. And it's curved like a half moon. In the back of that half moon, you can see a brown moss-covered path goes between tall jungle trees, straight as an arrow. Then there's a white marble floor cut out of the jungle, about a mile inland. And further up, it goes up into a single snow-capped mountain off to the right. And down to the left on a lower plateau, a huge clear dome city covering 3 four-sided golden pyramids with quartz-like caps. In the background, a half-moon-shaped mountain range, a small one, with little waterfalls and rivers running down it, put there for the aesthetic enjoyment of the people who work there. There's an emerald, kind of a blue-green lake, and an oval lake in the middle, and off to the right side of that dome, little ivory dome dwellings and little white roadways that wind through them. And when you look at the mountain to the right, up above, you see a single waterfall pouring out of a cavern 2/3 the way towards the summit. It's luminous. It has a phosphorescent type of glow to it. It's kind of a blue-green water. It's roaring out of this cavern, dropping thousands of feet down a sheer cliff face to disappear behind blue-green forest trees that surround the backside of this dome city. So up above you have blue-green forests like firs, and down below jungle environment like the tropics in one place. Up above the waterfall cave is a lighted tunnel. It's oval-shaped with little semi-spherical, half-dome-shaped lights leading into the interior of the mountain. That tunnel leads to the inside of Mount Shasta in Northern California on Earth that you're familiar with, to an extraterrestrial base that was put there in 1908. And it's because of that and other factors that Earth has been kept from blowing itself up in nuclear war without trying to control governments, that kind of thing. We do not have the right to blow ourselves up and affect in parallel dimensions, in other realities we know nothing about, or life in other worlds from destroying this planet. That will not be tolerated because we don't have the right to negatively affect trillions of other beings just because we're ignorant of them. So that much of interference they have done. More is on the way. The past prophesied destructive destiny for planet Earth was permanently neutralized about 8.5 years ago, Earth time, almost 9, and changed into an entirely new direction. But not by the will of people on Earth. It was done far beyond the lower worlds. And it's moving through the lower dimensions of time and space in a new way. I do not control it. I don't master it for my own selfish interests. I am an energy made of exactly the same substance as it, like you, and I co-create with my imagination in it wonderful new ways of doing things in the upper worlds and lower worlds, and it co-creates with me, just like it does with all of you. You look down and you feel your toes wiggling in this emerald glowing sand. You see the energy move up your legs, up your torso. The top of your head pulls your head up. You're smiling, and up above you see the white core of the spherical atma that you are running that body. Both are you. Both are the same energy. One looks physical so that you can have tactile sensation and some kind of communication with the environment where this world is in a parallel dimension up above where Earth is. The energy moves up into the white core of your being and out to the green layer, where it turns on certain teardrop shapes, which are higher faculties of knowing and confidence. This is a leap beyond faith into direct knowing experience. The Atma can do this. The brain and body cannot. So you're going to be sending this green energy back to the Atma hovering above your body on Earth and into your body through the pineal gland, so it moves freely through you out into the world for the uplifting benefit of all life, including your own. Then you suddenly find yourself hovering in space again, looking on this beautiful Earth with no polar ice caps and that green glowing beach. You can even see the mountains, snow-capped, the waterfall, the pyramids inside the dome, the moss-covered pathway that leads back to a flat, round, white marble-type floor, statue of a woman standing in it. And out you can see the moon circling the planet, turning on its axis. Dome cities on the front side. And as it turns, you can see two big dome cities situated in a mountainous area on the backside. When you look up, Trillion is pointing upward. We're still in space above Earth, this alternate Earth, this higher parallel dimension Earth. And you can hear the sound of the hue vibrating in the void of space. Like that. And you can feel it vibrating in the white core of your being. And it makes the physical form you have manifested, standing in space, looking at each other, smile. And you look up and see a brilliant cobalt blue star flash into existence. And then it opens with millions of little blue stars. Like the eye of a camera, it opens into a vortex. And on the other side of that vortex in space, you see a brilliant cobalt blue atmosphere, much brighter than where we are. Trillion and the group of us in a circle, Pelham, the Ramu, and Etta, my little kitty, with his tail glowing, hovering next to a 3-foot-long being named Etta, who's a Dren. He evolved on the bottom of the ocean in volcanic caverns that have been emptied out millions of years ago, self-contained ecosystems, and that creature is silica-based, evolved with the ability to defy gravity and fly through the air when its tail glows like crystal opal in bright sunlight. So you can see him. He's a master teacher. He's not human. Big bulbous blue eyes, long kind of a snout. With his mouth closed, he looks like he's amused about something, and he has little dexterous fingers and toes like a human, but he can walk on all fours or stand upright or levitate and fly through the air. And Etta is teaching Starlight, my kitty, who's an atma out of his body right now, learning how to fly around when he's out of his body. All of us are moving as a floating circle of beings around Trillion and these master teachers up into this vortex, right up through the opening and onto the other side. We suddenly find ourselves looking way down through that opening, and we can see all of us still hovering down there, the Atma hovering above a physical form around Trillion, near this higher parallel dimension Earth with no polar ice caps and this wonderful alive moon. And then it whirls closed and disappears, and what you see below your feet now is 6 snow-covered mountain peaks surrounding a small white island, and in the valley, in the base between them, and surrounding that is a kind of a blue-green luminous lake. When you look out over the horizon, because we're high above this floating circular landmass that's floating in this blue luminous atmosphere, and with the perceptions of the Atma you are here, you can see that there's a white golden light behind the blue energy supporting it. The blue energy here has to do with recall of your life in the upper worlds, and its purpose is to help you bring that back to the lower worlds, even to planet Earth. When you look out over the horizon, you can see there's a white luminous beach completely circling this huge landmass floating in this blue void, and it's glowing. To the left, to the west, is north, south, east, and west from where we're looking down on this landmass. To the left, you can see on a lower plateau what's called a blue glass administration tower, which is quite big. It's bigger than the Eiffel Tower in Paris, but it's smooth blue-like glass, it's transparent, goes up 2/3 to a flattened spherical administration area, and then up to a minaret point. Probably, 100 stories high, maybe taller than that compared to an Earth building. And it's coming up out of a round marble white floor, maybe several hundred feet across. And there are little white roadways extending from the outer circumference of this white marble floor supporting this blue glass administration tower. One goes out perfectly west and ends on the white glowing beach. Others go out like the spokes of a bicycle tire in every direction until they go through tunnels through these 6 mountains to the hollow interior and come out through tunnels on the other side to end on the beach in a complete circle. When you look down on this western roadway, you can see that going down it a bit, there's a right turn down a small bit of roadway that empties into a clearing. There's a giant 4-sided golden quartz cap pyramid sitting in there, surrounded by a beautiful botanical garden. The first turn to the left on that roadway, past the white marble floor that supports the blue glass administration tower, is another clearing. And in it is a tall, ivory-colored silo-type dome, like a grain silo. And as you go further down the road, you see there are right and left turns, several dozen of them, that go all the way out to the beach. And there are teaching facilities in each one of them. Different types of buildings, different beings teach here. Some of you have what's called a private co-creation dome, clear, empty, except for a white marble floor, somewhere located in this one of the 4 quadrants of this Hue Expansion Ray Academy, which is what it's called. This was brought into creation about 8.5 to 9 years ago for the first time in the upper worlds, above the void. And it is here so that beings like us and the master teachers, who no longer have their hands tied, can begin to work on co-creating, changing the way the lower dimensions are run. In your own private dome, there will be a golden sphere of light that's transparent, hovering. It's in the size of a football stadium. And you're hovering there by this golden sphere, and in it is a bright blue star. And this is what you use or work with to imagine new ways of doing things that spring from the natural creative ability of the core of your godly being, meaning you're made of the same energy as the source, which exists in a plane many dimensions above here in what's called the ocean of sound and light. Picture it like a huge galaxy of energy, and each of the little lights, like a star in a galaxy, is an individual atma like us that comprise this huge whirling mass floating in this bright blue void. There are no stars or planets or moons here, just beings. You could call that the source behind all life, the very center of it. We originated there, and an aspect of us as a spherical being is still there. And you say, how can that be? Well, remember that we do not bring any negative nature with us across the void into the Hue Expansion Ray Academy or any of the higher dimensions above the void. It cannot cross the void. It's back on Earth, turned off, asleep with your body. And in this dome, you find you're inspired by the beings who co-create with you here to build with them new ways of doing things. This is your destiny as a being. We are responsible for the creation of evil as an experiment, a failed experiment in the lower dimensions of time and space. And we are also responsible as co-creators with the source behind all life to change it, if we will, to something that really works. The new ray in the hue is designed to do just that. We just have to co-create with it, more and more of us. Ramu and Opelum and Etta teach here, as do many other beings from many world systems in the lower dimensions of time and space. And beings that live and work in the upper worlds also work here. In addition, now that we're floating above these 6 mountain peaks again, looking down on that island, you see a being approach us who looks human, about 6 feet tall, long blonde hair, ivory-colored skin, bare feet, and yet you can't see any facial features. This is a silent mentor. He's one of the mechanics of the creation. In other words, these beings maintain galaxies spinning on their axis, suns exploding, radiating warmth, planets turning on their axis, different dimensions, the portals between dimensions. This is what they do. They've never in the past been involved with helping to develop or enlighten individual atmas like us. They have absolute freedom in creation from the highest reality, like the ocean of sound and light, to the lowest world. And they can move on the hue itself, anywhere, instantly, in all of creation, in any form to carry out a particular mission. They are working 24/7 to maintain the creation as it is. It was them who recently permanently stopped the polar flips of planet Earth, ended the golden age to iron age and back again, so that the people on that world can one day experience permanent change that cannot be interrupted every 100,000 years from a massive polar flip. It's one of the first things they did because they went through a consciousness transformation and were inspired to do this. They are who create and control or maintain the creation. It is consciousness in the U Expansion Ray Academy that brings about eventual change for the better that did not exist before. They are working here, which is why this being, who's the top silent mentor, is presenting himself to us. And behind him, you see a sphere, an atma like us, 4 times larger, twice as many layers of color and teardrops. They do not consider themselves above us or better than us. They're just a different order of being. But they are now co-creatively working with master teachers and us in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, because a third order of being is coming into creation, kind of a blend of a silent mentor's unlimited capability and the loving nature of a master. It's never existed before. And it's quite necessary to have such an order in order to change the lower worlds into something better without destroying them. Here, hovering above the 6 mountain peaks, you can look out into all the white roadways extending to the luminous white beach that surrounds this floating circular landmass. And you hear the sound of eternity. And it sounds like, the new ray in the hue sounds like millions of men and women's voices singing the hue in perfect vocal cords on multiple levels at one time. The vibration is like a breath in and a breath out. You can feel it moving inside the white core of your being. And it's designed simply to make you aware or to help you recover awareness of what you are that isn't a physical form, never has been. And it's helping you to understand how to download such experiences carefully, gradually, into the pineal gland and brain of a body like the one you have on Earth, which never had any of these experiences. You look down on this little white island down in the center of the 6 mountain peaks in a valley, surrounded by a luminous blue-green lake, circular lake, and you can see that there is a 4-foot wide cobalt blue clear crystal sphere hovering above a pedestal. It is a blue lapis lazuli type stone with gold lace through it, polished with rounded corners, square, rectangular, and the sphere is hovering above it about 4 or 5 inches. It's not actually touching. And there's a cobalt blue star gleaming inside the center of it as if it's in the center of a vast outer space. And you can see a shaft of white golden light coming down from the blue sky above the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, down into this sphere, into this blue star, and then it's shot downward through the bottom of this blue stand pedestal, and it continues out the bottom of the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. And suddenly we're below this landmass looking up. And you can see there's a huge amethyst purple type crystal, perfectly formed, and smaller ones that extend up the peripheral so that it comes down to one single point. And this golden white light is being sent from the point of the amethyst downward into the plane just below here, which is the Atma plane, the first major plane above the void, beyond it. And there is a being standing there in a garden paradise, concentric circles, standing by a fountain on a white marble floor. And this image of this being is bronze skin, bald head, about 36, with 2 gold bracelets on his upper arms, a white tunic dress from his waist down to his ankles, bare-chested, strongly built. And his name is Satnam. And he is the governor, you might say, or manager of this Atma plane, the first plane above the void. And he's waving up at us. He knows we're here. We're in a dimension, a specially created dimension between the 6th and the 5th plane. That's the U Expansion Ray Academy. And you can see this beam of light comes down to the top of his head like a beam, the statue. And his arms are at his side with his palms open facing outward. And this light is coming through his palms, filling this bowl with this radiant, water-like, golden white light, pouring in an even sheen around the outer circumference of this white alabaster 15-foot wide statue marble. And then it continues down through the base, and it goes through the void and empowers the void below us. And it goes into the etheric, mental, causal, astral, and physical back to earth where you are. It's like a breath out and a breath in. It breathes out, circles back through creation, through different openings, and goes back to the source in the ocean of sound and light, far above the plane of the U Expansion Ray Academy. You find yourself suddenly inside this vast space, inside this crystal sphere, looking at this radiant, gleaming, brilliant blue light star. And you look down and you see the energy start to spiral clockwise down, like going down a drain. And then it opens and you can see all of us hovering around Trillion, down in the physical universe, looking at the planet Earth with no polar ice caps and this wonderful alive moon. And we're suddenly there around Trillion, looking at this Earth in the 3rd higher parallel dimension that exists in the physical universe. We've been on that green beach. We know there's a mountain there with a waterfall coming out of it, another dome city. And then you see the Earth become what we're used to seeing it like, with polar ice caps, North and South American continents, Europe, Africa, Asia, South Antarctic continent, the ice of the North Pole, the barren moon with craters on it, no life, no oxygen, doesn't turn on its axis, very little gravity, the sun in the distance. And you can still see in between the Earth, the moon, and the sun, this white golden light filling the void of space, what people on Earth used to call dark matter, it does not follow the laws of physics. It is an energy behind that, supporting it. It is a living, one single conscious power, and we're all part of it. Then you see yourself hovering above your body back on Earth, looking down on this body you have in the trance state called sleep, looking on it kindly, realizing that you are a spherical being, an Atma, a soul. And you want to do the best you can for that form to make change while you're here. So you send a little white golden beam of light from the white core of your being into the pineal gland, the center of your brain. You let it gently move in all directions, lighting up brain cells, going through your body, and passing off into the distance. It connects to 3 pyramids that are stationed on Earth now. And these are not made of matter, but they are designed to exist in matter. They are massive 4-sided golden pyramids with quartz-like caps. 2 at the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans, 1 inside a special mountain hidden in the Himalaya. They, in turn, have these fountains in each one. And this white golden light is lighting them up, and then it's radiating out in donut-shaped pulsed circles in every direction, sending this energy out through the planet, out into the universe. These 3 pyramids connect to a much bigger pyramid stationed between 2 stable asteroids in the asteroid field that circles in the orbit of a planet in our solar system between Mars and Jupiter. It goes into that center, and then it goes out to pyramids that are appearing between stars in our galaxy. And then it goes back upward into the upper worlds. You look kindly on your body, and you endeavor to bring as much of the awareness of this journey into that brain and consciousness that never had it, for your well-being and the well-being of all life. And then when you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you for the journey, Scott.
We'll do different ones. I'm trying to do this one in different ways a number of times, and you're welcome, so that people get grounded with shifting their consciousness between different dimensions on different realities and bringing it back to Earth. This takes practice. It takes experience. It's a little self-discipline, but it really only takes the childlike wonder to know creation beyond Earth. And at least enough trust in yourself to know you're capable of knowing it or recovering it. That's what we're doing.
Can I add this to those who are in fear, worries, in doubt, or in problem? You know, for me, my experience, what I do, because it takes time for me to understand what you are trying to tell us is, once you have this problem or in fear, you go above the planet Earth, you know, in the atmosphere, because over there is no negative energy around us, right? So
the void of space cannot record negative and positive imagination or emotions. So really, space, you know, where the space shuttle goes, there's nothing negative there or positive. It's like just this one energy supporting worlds that contain those things. It's very interesting when you come to understand that.
Yeah, stay there, hang there for a while, you know, and then come back on Earth, and then you see that things will change, you know.
Okay, for people who read English, because there isn't one in Thai yet, leaving open the future, this is the Sayre's agenda, and you can see it's got not for resale. This is a prototype. I just happen to have this one in front of me. So on the regular book, you wouldn't see this gray area. And that is a mile-long Galactic Alliance Emerald Star cruiser, double-ended, meaning it has control bridges on each end. These scout ships with these 3 semispheric pods, anti-gravitic ships, enter in the central section of the ship, but not through launch bays. They have a gravitational field around them, and they change the time rate so that the molecular time rate of the ship is higher than the metal that makes the ship. They can pass right through it, and then lower the time rate and land inside the launch bay itself. These are designed this way, cylindrical, so they can move through into portals, interdimensional doorways, to get around the universe thousands of times beyond the speed of light, even millions in some cases. This is a smaller ship. It's only a mile. There are 10-mile-long versions of this ship. So this, you can see, is the planet Saturn, and the rings that make up Saturn are ice chunks. They're water. Scientists on Earth know this now. That's water, big chunks. So this is where this ship is stationed permanently to patrol this solar system, to keep tyrants out who've done enough damage here. So the tyrants that used to be on Earth have been removed, but not by people on Earth. That's interesting. So we've got now a planet full of subconsciously misdirected people, misprogrammed, that need that corrected so the whole world can move in a new direction. And that's what these guys are patrolling the solar system now to keep. In other words, our solar system is quarantined, meaning that these kind beings don't want people like us on Earth traveling out in the stars, polluting it with their biases and bigots and prejudices and religious warfare and political nonsense, because space out here is already occupied by more advanced races. We're going to have to join with them if we want to play among the stars, or we're going to be kept within our solar system because we're dangerous, destructive people the way we are on Earth. They know that. They want to help change that. That's the Sayre's agenda. In the back, as Perry knows, is a whole long special techniques section involving the hue. It's special technique for the prologue and one separate one for each of the 29 chapters that will help people recover who they are if they'll put it to use, if they'll work with it, if they'll exercise their higher faculties, get them working again, because people on Earth haven't used them at all. People are telepathic. I'll give you an example. A young girl, beautiful shapes, walking across the street, and some young guy, say they're both 21, looks at her and says, boy, she's pretty. And she hears that somehow and turns around and looks right at the guy. That's telepathy. But they don't know that's what they're doing. They call it intuition, but that's really not what's happening. So that is what you would call suppressed telepathy. So if you gives people an idea of what I'm talking about here, if you expand that to a larger level, then it works in communicating with beings all over creation, in ships or just directly as Atmas without their bodies. Because some of the Galactic Alliance personnel in those little scout ships, 30 foot wide, travel around the solar system in groups generally of 4 couples, 2 men, 2 women. 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd be 8 people. And when 2 of them are sitting at the back of the ship, they'll go into the trance state, leave their bodies as Atmas knowingly. They can come up and join us on these journeys. And some of them are great adept teachers, especially in how to get over being subconsciously misdirected. But they won't work with anyone unless they're asked. So I will give the names of Shantial, Tonaltial, Dantiam, and Lamtiam as 2 couples that work with people on Earth when they're out of their bodies at night to help them be free of subconscious terrorizing programs. They aren't conscious, they have. And they will do this, and they love their work. They're always excited when they can work this way. So I'll put those names out for people so they can call on them, or Torellian, or me, or just anybody they meet on these journeys, because they're all kind people, and they will help you. So that book you can get at Amazon, or in Thailand, I think, at a Japanese bookstore. You said?
Yeah, Kinokuniya.
Okay. Well, sushi to you too. Sushi to you too. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Well, okay. The Emerald Doorway book. I don't even know where that is right now. Which is the first book of the Parallel Time Trilogy. I'll show it to you because I think it's important that I do that. Where the heck are those guys?
Yeah,
Well, I'll tell you what. Instead of showing that book, which is more about the ancient history of Earth involving extraterrestrials, it brings us to present time on Earth. The series agenda is more about what's happening with beings outside of Earth and other dimensions in present time that will affect this world. Okay? That is.
Yeah. But those 2 books are very interesting, so don't miss them.
Yeah, you can just go to paralleltime.com, PARALLELTIME.com, and it will be on this video. So you can click on any one of the 4 websites I have and go look at the book section, because there's nothing sold at my websites. You have to click on a link that goes directly to Amazon or iTunes for the print or ebooks to get them there. Because I don't sell anything on the websites, but you can go there and find all the links you need to any of those things if you want to get them and acquire them and start working with them. So, Perry, I want to thank you again for hosting this ongoing little thing we got. I think the next one's in 2 weeks.
Yes.
The next Thursday, I have a radio show coming up with Michael Vera, 9:30 my time, called Late Night in the Midlands. It's like a 2-hour show.
Yeah, if our people want to listen to your show with Michael, that too, how they follow you, can you tell them?
I'll just list something in the writing. This is the next show I'll be on. It's just like second time I've been on it in a couple of years. So it's a regular radio show. They call me on the phone and we interview like Coast to Coast does that way. Okay. Well, Perry, if you don't have any more questions, I'll say sayonara for now and wish everybody pleasant dreams.
See you next time, Scott. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.